If you're one of the millions of people whose entire income has been put on hold by the coronavirus lockdowns, I have a personal story to share with you that will hopefully give you some inspiration for things that you can do to prevent this from happening to you again in the future. So 20 years ago, I unfortunately found myself being retrenched from a pretty cushy marketing management job at a bank. You know, the kind of job that comes with perks such as a low interest rate home loan, vehicle finance at low rates, free petrol, medical aid cover for just about everything, a cell phone, a laptop, an expense account, and so on. I had a lot of things going for me in that job, so losing it through no fault of my own was a bit disappointing, to say the least. After being retrenched, my original plan was that I would use my severance package to buy a franchise business and set up shop at a local mall. Unfortunately, for various reasons that I won't go into, it didn't quite work out, and the severance money I had received soon dwindled down to nothing, as I tried frantically to execute plans B, C, and D while still servicing these significant personal overheads that I'd neglected to rationalize after leaving the corporate world. You don't think about these things when you're making other plans, so I just carried on living normally, expecting that my new venture would plug the income gap once it got going and that everything would carry on normally after that. Things got tough from there. After the failed franchise application, I tried selling advertising in a property magazine. That didn't work out. I was also trying to make money out of doing photography, which I didn't really know all that much about at the time. I even took a position as an insurance salesman, which was probably the worst thing I could have done because I not only had no faith in what I was selling, but I also had no skills in the direct selling business either. It takes a certain kind of person to do that job, and I definitely wasn't it. By the end of 2002, I was flat broke. The following year, after having sold my house and my fancy car to free up some capital, I was lucky enough to get involved in a business opportunity where I started making some decent money again. While things had the appearance of being hunky-dory on the surface, I was still quite concerned with the situation where once again I was entirely reliant on just one thing to keep my life going. And as life would have it, a few years later my fears were realized and I had no choice but to close down that business. It was at this point that I had had enough of being dependent on others. I decided that if I was going to be reliant on anything going forward, it needed to be me and me alone. So I needed to become as dynamic as possible to avoid these calamities in the future. A few years earlier, I had read Robert Kiyosaki's best-selling Rich Dad, Poor Dad business book. And while there was no way I would be able to invest any money in property for rental income, which is that author's basic premise of creating wealth, the concepts of having multiple income streams that he proposes really took root in my mind, and I just had to find a way to apply the same principles to my own situation. What could I do that would generate income for me passively so that I would not be reliant on doing just one thing anymore? I found my answer in the form of splitting my activities into both creative and technical pursuits, where the technical stuff would be more aligned with passive income and the creative stuff with task-based income. So I made a website for selling my photographic services, which had improved quite a bit since 2001. And because I already knew how to make websites, I started making them for other people too. Even though the dot-com bubble had already long since burst, the Web 2.0 movement had just begun taking off around 2005, and there was a growing sense of excitement about what could be accomplished online using a bit of ingenuity. I wanted to create websites that would provide me with passive income, so that's what I did. My biggest success came in the form of creating an online community that I built for Nikon camera users. This was in the pre-Facebook hype era, and my Nikon website really took off internationally with tens of thousands of monthly visitors. It was a total eye-opener for me as well as a massive learning curve, and it pretty much consumed every waking moment of my life, but it wasn't really going anywhere for me financially. How could I make money out of this thing that I'd made? I tried to monetize the traffic I was getting with Google ads, but honestly, the money I earned from them wasn't really even enough to pay for my hosting bill, which had by now ballooned to the point where I had to buy a dedicated server at a cost of about $300 a month if I wanted to keep the Nikon website going. So I needed to do something else to make this effort pay off, otherwise it would end up being a liability instead of an asset, which in Robert Kiyosaki's playbook is a definite no-no. In 2007, one of the members of my new forum made a post asking if anybody would like to join him on an overland photography expedition from Florida, USA, down to Patagonia in South America. And this sparked an idea in my mind to do something similar here in South Africa. I had the attention of all these photographers around the world who had the money to buy whatever camera gear they wanted, but they never went further than to their local zoo with it. So why not host a photo safari for these members and get them to come out here and photograph animals in their natural habitat, as well as some pretty amazing landscapes? It turned out to be a very good idea. I took on an established tourism business partner who handled the planning and financial side of things for me, and as the host of these trips, I also got to join in on most of them at no direct cost to myself. So I was literally getting paid to take people on premium holidays to places that I could never afford to go to on my own. It was like I was living the life of Riley. And so was born my photography tourism business, which has intermittently accounted for a large portion of my earnings over the past 10 years. It's not exactly passive income, as I still have to do quite a lot of marketing work for each safari I promote, but it has made a huge difference in my life and my approach to using digital assets to produce income. The other fortunate spin-off from having had to invest in a dedicated server just to run this website is that I can now also sell web hosting to my web design clients directly from it. And this produces an annuity income that is kind of passive. It's sort of exactly what Robert Kiyosaki proposes doing by establishing banks of rental properties, except that my properties are disk space and programs that are housed on the internet, not bricks and mortar. Rent is rent. It doesn't really matter where it comes from. And the more renters I have, the more income I have. So in essence, my website design activity is a loss leader for me. I don't charge huge amounts to design new websites for clients, but then it is contingent on me getting the hosting business that goes with them. I also get other task-based income from doing highly specialized photographic work, which, while not in abundance these days, is still nice to be able to do as it breaks the monotony of having a regular job. Being able to switch lanes like this and have more than one source of income is what has kept me going through some very tough economic times, even before the pandemic broke our world. It can be a bit nerve-wracking at times, but my days are variable, and by keeping my overheads down to a minimum, I'm at least able to make something, even when the world decides to do this crazy triple somersault with a back twist and throw everything we know is normal out the window. So what is my advice to you if you've become a casualty of the pandemic's economic impact? I will say that if you have an interest in something that other people might also be interested in, now is a good time to start a side hustle using online resources that could get you earning some money from that niche interest. Maybe you make something that other people want to buy, or maybe you know a little bit about things like fitness or cooking food that other people will pay to learn about. You could make money in the form of a subscription to content that you produce about whatever it is that you're interested in, or that, other people are interested in. Or maybe you can use affiliate links to recommend products that other companies sell around this niche interest. Better yet, why not sell the products yourself by opening an online shop? There are so many people out there who have become independent earners by making their side hustle into their main hustle. You just look at what's going on right here on YouTube. People are making a ton of money, and they're making it their job. They build an audience, and then they monetize that audience in a variety of different ways. You have to keep looking out for any opportunities that will let you share your passions and knowledge with others. Once you have your own audience, you will have an attentive market, and selling into that market becomes a little bit easier than trying to force yourself onto somebody else's less engaged audience. For me, the photography enthusiast audience that I built allowed me to sell photographic safaris into it, and while those are now on hold temporarily, I'm still able to do other things to plug the gap. When lockdown happened, I immediately switched my focus to offering more website design, and I was helping other people get online shops going in a very short, cost-effective manner. And these folks appreciate what I do for them. The fact that most of them are still hosting their websites with me a year later is a good sign that I have built a strong audience who trust me with their digital needs. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you'll join that audience too. Well, that's my story. I hope that it interested you in some way, and hopefully you'll take this advice and get stuck into making it online yourself, one way or another. If you'd like to know more about how to actually get a website going, head over to the link in the description, where you can see how I might be able to help you do it as cost effectively as possible. Be sure to also sign up to my mailing list when you're there, and then I'll be able to keep you informed on new projects that I'm involved with, as well as some specials that I run from time to time. Until next time, take care.